Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well out there. Sorry for the lack of content coming from the channel, but life has been kicking my ass as of late. Also, my capture equipment is still knackered. You know what else has been kicking my ass? Virtual racing on the Nintendo Switch. Why this game took so long to bring to English stores, I don't know. This is the version I bought off of the Japanese eShop, and it has English language settings, so I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. Racing games are something that I do enjoy, not as much as other genres of games such as the JRPG, platformers, shooting games, or fighting games, but I do enjoy a good driving game. I was pretty excited to hear that the dudes over at M2 were bringing over Virtua Racing to the Switch. It's a game that I have played before, but never got into as much as, say, a Crazy Taxi or a Sega Rally. And as you can tell, Virtua Racing is a very early driving game. Not the first 3D driving game, it was beat out by other titles such as Namco's Winning Run and Midway's Hard Driving that got a really shit Genesis port. Like, really shit Genesis port. Seriously, Hard Driving on the Genesis might be the worst Sega Genesis title out there, and that's saying something, but I digress. Or where was I going? Oh yeah, both of these titles both predate Virtua Racing. However, Virtua Racing was probably the first 3D racer that actually felt good to play, at least according to Wikipedia. There's just something about Sega racers that make them so enjoyable decades after their release. Games like Outrun, Power Drift, Sega Rally, Daytona, Super Hang-On, Outrun 2, and of course, Crazy Freaking Taxi are all amazing to play so many years later. And maybe Sega Touring Car, that game wasn't good at all. However, it did have an amazing soundtrack that was undeniably 90s. Cue the Eurobeats. Virtual Racing, much like the other Sega racing titles, remains enjoyable to this very day. Granted, it doesn't look anywhere near as good as those titles, but I think the early polygonal look for this title adds to its charm. This is very much an arcade racer that provides a mostly fair and fun challenge for any racing game or arcade game fan. Just pick a track and off you go. I love the soundtrack in this game. Yeah, it's not really bad 90s Euro beat, but it's just so, it's endearing. That's the word I'm looking for here. With Sega Ages being the way it is, Sega Ages Virtual Racing comes with plenty of options to play around with. One thing I do like is being able to change the control type. Virtual Racing isn't quite as smooth of a racer as, say, a Daytona or a Sega Rally. In fact, I don't even think you can drift in this title. Sega Ages not only gives you an option for smoother steering, but there's also an option for motion steering which works well enough, but I really don't recommend it for playing in handheld mode. Trust me, I tried it and it didn't work so well. There's also online, which no one is playing. If you do have friends, it is possible to do 8-player local matches, which is pretty ridiculous. I don't even think I have 7 friends period, let alone getting all those friends to play Virtua Racing on a small computer monitor at that. Though the thought of doing that would be pretty lit. It's like doing the Saturn Bomberman with 10 players, but it's hard to get 10 players, a Sega Saturn with 2 control taps to do that with. But if you could do it, it must be a pretty cool experience. Man, I'm rambling a lot in this episode, aren't I? Maybe I should sleep more. I think the biggest problem about Sega Ages Virtual Racing compared to the other Sega Ages titles is that it doesn't have a lot of meat on the bones. You get 3 tracks, several difficulty settings, multiplayer, and that's it. This was fine for an arcade game back in the 90s, but in 2019, it's not going to be a lot for most gamers, even at the low price point. It is a bit disappointing that M2 couldn't bring the content that was in the 32X or Saturn versions of Virtual Racing. I'm pretty sure M2 just wanted to get a working Model 1 emulator, and I'm sure the ROMs for those 2 versions of Virtual Racing are lost to time. However, it's a shame because those 2 versions did have a lot of extra content, such as new tracks and even multiple cars to play as. And I remember the Saturn version having a career mode, which is pretty ambitious for such an early racing game on the Sega Saturn. The Sega Saturn was awesome, man. Look at them 3D babes. Taki, 2B, Tifa, Bayonetta. Y'all better move the hell out of the way because y'all got nothing on
Virtua babes.
With all this said, virtual racing is fun. What is here is 3 courses that are very well designed and infinitely enjoyable. Thanks to the multiple difficulty and control settings, players of any skill level can complete these tracks and practice before they choose to go online or go for a higher difficulty setting. The key to getting really good scores in virtual racing is just to not spin out and to keep us going as fast as possible, which is easier said than done. The biggest benefit to this game is that it is a super pick up and play title, which is perfect for a handheld like the Nintendo Switch. If you got a few minutes, it's easy to get in a race, get your fun in, and then be on your way. And I think that's all I have to say on virtual racing for the Nintendo Switch. It's a fun little piece of history that plays well on the Switch. I'm curious to see the future of Sega Ages. I like that they are bringing back an obscurity like virtual racing, but I want some other racers to come back like Daytona, like Sega Rally, and Crazy Taxi, of course. And it would also be dope if M2 could put Skies for Arcadia to the Switch. I don't know. I would enjoy it. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Again, sorry for the lack of content and updates from the channel. Just stuff is happening in the life of the Z-Man right now. But don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. However, if you do want to keep up with me and my random updates on life, you can follow me on Twitch, Twitter, Patreon, please, and Instagram over at ZMangs. And I'll see you on the next episode of The Z-Man Show. Take it easy, everybody.